So in the last lecture, I showed you this technique to inject a real or a fake file reader to this video service object. This approach works, but it's not ideal in enterprise applications. Because in a real-world application, this class might have a couple more dependencies. You don't want to repeat this expression a few times and also make these parameters optional. It looks a little bit ugly. That's why we refer to this approach as poor man's dependency injection. In a real enterprise-like application, you don't want to do this. You want to keep your code as simple as possible. That's why we use a dependency injection framework. When you use a proper dependency injection framework in your application, you can simplify this constructor to something like this. Like this. It's far simpler. So a dependency injection framework will take care of creating and initializing objects at runtime. There are various dependency injection frameworks out there. We have Ninject, we have StructureMap, Spring.NET, AutoFac, Unity, and so on. Almost all these frameworks follow the same principles. In a dependency injection framework, you have a container. This container is a registry for all your interfaces and their implementations. When your application starts, your dependency injection framework will automatically take care of creating object graphs based on the interfaces and types registered in the container. For example, in an ASP.NET MVC application, when you receive a request on the server, ASP.NET Runtime should create an instance of a controller class. Your controller might have one or more dependencies. Let's say iFileReader. At this point, your dependency injection framework kicks in. It looks at the parameters of the constructor of your controller. Then it looks at its container or the registry, finds the concrete implementations for these referenced interfaces, instantiates them, and passes them to your controller. If those objects also have dependencies, your dependency injection framework again will take care of creating and initializing an object graph for you. Using a dependency injection framework is beyond the scope of this course, and that's something you need to research on your own. Because the implementation varies from one framework to another, and also it's dependent on the kind of application you're building. For example, the setup code for using a dependency injection framework in an ASP.NET MVC application is different from a, let's say, Xamarin or WPF application. It's even different amongst different versions of ASP.NET MVC. So, if you want my recommendation, I would say go with either Ninject or AutoFac. These are the two popular dependency injection frameworks out there. But again, you might be part of a team and your team leader may love a different dependency injection framework. That's perfectly fine. Don't get hung up on the tooling. So, pick one of these dependency injection frameworks, read their documentation about what you need to do to use them in your applications.